Yeah, very good morning to you. It's a glorious morning in Salford in Greater Manchester. Very bright outside. It's a bit on the chilly side though, but it's lovely. Great to be with you as usual. Sunday morning it is the 15th of December 2019, meaning we're 10 days away from the big day. Hope you've had a good weekend. It's very decent of you to get out of bed to listen to Sunday View. Do tweet the programme. Right now it's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. As usual, I'll be reading your comments out as we go along. How you doing?
Asking the questions mainstream journalists will never ask. This is your Richie Allen Show on richieallen.co.uk, Fab Radio 2 in Manchester, and triggerwarning.tv.
That's the one. Get in there.
It's the Richie Allen Show, broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
Ah, yes. Well, the Sunday newspapers are very election-centric this morning, and I suppose you would have guessed that. We'll look at the front pages. I'll try not to stay with the election for too long, although it'll be hard not to, but there are two other articles in the UK and Irish press today. One in the Irish Sunday Times, which is outstanding, and Peter Hitchens writing about chemical attacks in Syria in the Mail on Sunday. A series of articles that he's been writing now for nearly a month, or, well, maybe a little bit more than a month. So we'll look at those as well, and your comments along the way. Sunday View with me, Richie Allen. 15th of December, as I said. It's chilly out there, but it's lovely. It's lovely. I love that. I love when, I love those wintry sunshine days, wintry kind of watery sun. It is cold out, but it's glorious. I like them because I'm a runner. And it's about the best conditions you can run in, really. So I'm looking forward to my run later on, but I live in the present. I never think about the future, and I never think about the past. If the future Mrs. Allen was here right now, she would absolutely endorse that. She would say, there are so many things wrong with the big baldy gammon, she would say. But if there's one thing I envy, she would say, is that he lives in the present. So I'm here with you now, delighted to be here with you. Hi to Paul Curtis. Paul, good morning. How you doing, Paul? Very concerned at Richie and his blood pressure this morning. They're talking about Rebecca Long-Bailey being the possible next Prime Minister. Breathe, Richie, breathe. In and out, in and out. Yeah, I love running gags. And my gags are old, but the older and the more tired they are, the more I love them. Rebecca Long-Bailey. Did you hear that, Tom?
No. Could you repeat it? Because I can't believe my fucking ears.
Yeah, Rebecca Long-Bailey. John McDonnell was on telly this morning on Andrew Marr, and, well, John thinks it should be a woman. We should have a woman next time, and it should be a northern woman. There you are. That's where we are in 2020. Well, we're nearly in 2020. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now, and we'll have a very cool... Well, I'm not going to shut up, am I? Unless you're some sort of genius that can understand what's going on without hearing me. Right, have I got the Sunday notes? I have the Sunday notes. Here are the notes. Let's have a look at the front pages. Election-centric. The Sunday Times, now for the Boris revolution. Boris to wield axe on cabinet. Sunday Times is saying that there'll be a revolutionary government that will see ministers sacked, Whitehall departments abolished, and civil servants will be replaced by external experts. So according to the Sunday Times, a third of the cabinet might lose their jobs in February. They reckon it'll happen in February, after the scheduled Brexit date, allegedly. Because in theory, the withdrawal bill agreed between Boris Johnson's government and the European Union, in theory that should pass the Commons by January the 31st. We'll hear more about that in a minute. That's the Sunday Times. The Sunday Telegraph goes with the same story. PM's Whitehall revolution to guarantee people's Brexit. Same story. Planned overhaul of Whitehall in a bid to show the people that the government works for them. Yeah, of course it does. Also in the Telegraph, the Sunday Telegraph reports on a planned reforms even to the civil service, a review of hiring and firing processes. And there is an article in the Sunday Telegraph today that says Johnson has ordered an urgent review into decriminalising non-payment of the BBC licence fee. That costs £154.40 a year at the moment, and you pay that for watching live television or the iPlayer. Yes, and apparently one of Bojo's chums, Rishi Sunak, was on Andrew Marr as well, and he said, well, we're going to look into it. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Sunday Express front page, Boris, I will make it the law to protect the NHS. Details of the Queen's speech, which will happen on Thursday, when Parliament formally opens. According to the Sunday Express, Johnson will guarantee in law the government's plan to increase NHS spending. Now, the Mail on Sunday leads with a picture of Boris Johnson on his feet with a huge grin on his big fat face, while his girlfriend Carrie Simmons is beaming alongside him. According to the Mail on Sunday, the picture was taken at the exact moment Boris heard the exit poll number last Thursday. So the headline is, moment the gamble of Boris's life paid off. The Observer, front page, Corbyn, I take my share of responsibility for this defeat. Well, that's big of Jeremy, isn't it? Isn't it? Thanks, Jeremy. Jeremy has published a letter in the Sunday Mirror this morning. So the headline on the front page of the Sunday Mirror is, I'm Jez, so sorry. Get it? Get it? I'm Jez, so sorry. Shall I read you 3 paragraphs of it? Shall I? Do you want to hear some of it? Do you? Do you? Fuck off. I'm going to read it anyway. Right. Here's some of the letter. Millions of people saw in our manifesto a better future for themselves and their communities. Our policies to protect the NHS and austerity. Our policies to protect the NHS end austerity, invest in every part of our country, and tackle inequality were popular with voters, who saw through a ferocious smear and fear campaign against us. But despite our best efforts, this election was ultimately about Brexit. The Tory campaign, amplified by most of the media, managed to persuade many that only Boris Johnson could get Brexit done. Oh, we'll come back to the media in a minute. We'll come back to the media. Oh, Jeremy. Amplified by most of the media. Jeremy goes on. That will soon be exposed for the falsehood it is. Getting Brexit done, that is. But in this election, it overpowered our attempt to reach across the divide and bring our country together. I want you to bring us together, says Jeremy. He goes on to say, we will learn the lessons of this defeat, above all by listening to those lifelong Labour voters who we've lost in working class communities. This party exists to represent them. We will earn their trust back. Make no mistake, Labour is the greatest force for progressive change this country has ever known. And although this wasn't our moment, our time will come again under new leadership. We will never give up on the commitment and determination to build a fairer and more decent society, where government departments are led by blind lesbians in wheelchairs. No, he didn't say any of that. That was Jeremy Corbyn in the Mirror. Star on Sunday front page is a story about BBC One's ballroom dancing show. Fucking Star on Sunday, eh? 9 minutes past 11 it is, Sunday View, with the BBG, not the BBC, the BBG. Jeremy Corbyn's apology letter. John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, for now, was on the Marr show this morning. To his credit. What happened? Well, 'twas the Brexit strategy, says McDonnell.
The bulk of our members campaigned for Remain and were solid in Remain. About 70%, I think, one the poll showed. But the bulk of Labour MPs, a large number of Labour MPs, like me, represented Leave seats. So we're on the horns of a dilemma. If we campaigned for Remain, we would lose Leave voters. If we campaigned solely for Leave, we'd lose Remain. It was either way we were going to be hammered. But what we tried to do is bring both sides together, and we failed. It just, the tactic, the strategy, whatever you call it, didn't work.
According to the polling of Labour voters who defected in this election to the Tories, it says for about 31% Brexit was the biggest issue, but for 45% it was the Labour leadership itself. Jeremy Corbyn, I know he's an old friend and a comrade, but he went down very, very badly on the doorstep.
Look, we have to recognise, I think it was Brexit that did us. We were in this horns of a dilemma. We couldn't move either way. Or if we did and we tried the compromise, it didn't work. That's the first thing.
Okay. As for Jeremy and how poorly he went down, because Jeremy went down very badly on the doorstep, apparently, well, What does McDonald say? Well, it was the media, says John.
Look, the media did a number on Jeremy for 4
The media did a number on Jeremy for 4 years.
years solid every day. Let me just finish this. Every attack, every smear was going on. And they transposed someone who I know is a man of honesty and principle into someone demonised in a way no other politician on this scale has been done before. And I deeply regret that.
And yet, he was also seen directly by huge numbers of people through his media performances on television and radio. People did see him, and they did get a sense of him. Let me read you what one former MP, Anna Turley, who was the MP for Redcar, said. And she's quite typical of what a lot of your ex-MPs are saying. She said, for every time that Brexit was raised on the doorstep, the leadership was raised 4 times. Even by those sticking with us, there was visceral anger from lifelong Labour voters. They felt they couldn't vote for a party they'd supported all their lives because of, quotes, that man at the top.
2 issues there. One is, actually, I do blame the media. I know people say, oh, he's just blaming the media, but look at the evidence of the last few years, the way in which Jeremy has been treated in the media. Secondly, on the broadcast media, when he had the opportunity to broadcast media, actually it's interesting in the polling, he was seen as the most trustworthy of the candidates. The person, let me just say, on this polling point, also the person who is most in tune with people's day-to-day concerns. I don't think we had the opportunity through the broadcast media that we had right the way through the last 4 years.
We didn't have the opportunity in the broadcast media. But Labour had as much access to the media as anybody else. You know, there are rules governing this. They were always on. Every other weekend, it was either McDonald or Corbyn on the Marr, Ridge and Robert Peston programmes. We'll come back to that in a minute. They had more than enough opportunities in the last 4 years while being interviewed by the political heavyweight broadcasters on UK television. They had the opportunity. Now, Marr, as in the presenter Andrew Marr, is insistent that Corbyn was seen as a disaster and his personal ratings were dreadful, but McDonald blames the media again.
Keeping away from the internal attacks, nonetheless, his leadership polling ratings were absolutely catastrophic, minus 44, even at their best at times. Now that is really, really low, way below Boris Johnson's ratings, for instance, and so people did not like what they saw.
But isn't it interesting, though, because here we Right, I don't go into personalities, but let's at least explore some of the objective issue on this. Here we have Boris Johnson, who is a proven liar, who's been sacked from a couple of jobs for lying.
And a victorious Prime Minister.
And yet contrast that with someone who is known for his honesty and principle. So why did people vote for one and not the other? I actually think it was largely the media portrayal. And I find in this whole discussion from the future, we need to examine the nature of our politics. Let me just finish this point. One recent examination by Loughborough University of the campaign looked at social media, and they found that 80% of the advertising by the Tories was either distorted, smear or inaccurate. On Labour's, 0%. There has to be an open discussion now about the nature of our politics in our country, the way social media and the media and other elements operate as well.
Marr, the presenter, reads a quote from a Scottish Labour candidate who said that he heard nothing but negatives about Jeremy Corbyn. And then it gets interesting. Labour supporters, look away now. You're going to be very triggered indeed.
He's reflecting what he heard on the doorstep. I think that was about the media portrayal of Jeremy.
The media portrayal of Jeremy again, right? You got to hear this from the top, right? Because, what happens here is Marr says Scottish Labour candidate said that it was horrible on the doorstep, Corbyn. McDonald says media again, then listen.
He's reflecting what he heard on the doorstep. I think that was about the media portrayal of Jeremy than the reality. But let's have the debate about the nature of our politics, the nature of the reportage of our politics, and the nature, I think, the way they treat individuals. Because it wasn't just Jeremy. They did the same to Ed Miliband. They did the same to Neil Kinnock.
So you don't think it's anything to do with the actual characters at the top of the Labour Party?
I think it's anyone who challenges the establishment.
What did he just say there, John McDonald? You're shitting me, John. You didn't say that, did you?
I think it's anyone who challenges the establishment.
Wow, it's anyone who challenges the establishment, says John. Do tell us more.
Will be portrayed in this way. Why? Because the establishment owned the media in the...
The what, John? What in the name of Christ did you just say there?
Why? So the establishment owned the media in this
The establishment owns the media.
in this country.
Okay,
However, that doesn't mean to say mistakes weren't made, and I'm sure there's elements of my politics and my character that could be taken apart.
There's plenty. There's plenty.
I accept that. But I think if you look at anyone who's challenged the system,
Anybody who's challenged the system.
of course the system will throw the kitchen sink at you, and that's what happened. He's reflecting what
Wow. Anybody who challenges the system, of course, the system will throw the kitchen sink at you, said John McDonnell. Wow. Isn't it interesting? McDonnell has no sense of irony whatsoever. None. Couldn't that have been brought up in the many lengthy interviews conducted between John McDonnell and the Beeb or Jeremy Corbyn and Sky? Couldn't they have brought it up? You know, the media owned by a few corporations, eh? It's a bit late now, isn't it? Labour supporters, listen good now. This is where you get triggered. Listen good, I tells you. When McDonnell and Corbyn were backbenchers, these were the things they'd have said to their champagne socialist pals over lunch in swanky London diners. Conspiracy truths about the media. Yes, they would have talked at length over while quaffing Prosecco. These champagne socialist trade unionists like McDonnell and Corbyn would have talked about the media and how it's owned by 5 or 6 corporations, how it has been destroyed in the UK by companies like Global and Bauer. Oh, they would have had lots to say. They might have even talked about September the 11th. They might have talked about the Iraq War, having their cocktails in their swanky London diners when they were backbenchers. But all of a sudden they found themselves running Labour. What happened? Not a peep, not a word, not a whisper, not even a fucking rumour about these things that we talk about all the time in the truly independent media. Oh no! But now that they're kicked out, now that they are gone, banished back to the backbenches, back to their base, back to their champagne socialist friends and their marches for Gaza, well, they can talk all they want now about the media, about Rupert Murdoch and about the UK's Zionist lobby. It's a bit late now, lads, isn't it? 'Tis a bit late now, lads. Right. Keep the tweets coming in. It's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. It's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. They had ample time in the last 4 years in extended interviews with the top teams on Sky and the Beeb and Channel 4. Oh, they had all the time in the world. McDonnell said the media destroyed Corbyn. I wouldn't deny that. Most of the print press took against Corbyn. I wouldn't deny that. But Corbyn made it very, very easy for them, didn't he? I'm not going to rehash what I said on Friday when I ranted on for 20 minutes about it. But he had all the opportunities in the world, sitting in front of Ridge and Andrew Neil, Corbyn, to go on the offensive and to tell the truth. And I warned you back in 2015, but none of you wanted to listen. You were thrilled to bits. I warned you no good would come of Corbyn. I told you that he would never say a thing. He would never repeat some of the things he said on picket lines and at Palestine marches. He would never say those things as leader of the Labour Party. You told me I was wrong. And then you are such a narcissistic fucker that when you realised you were wrong, rather than admit it, you said to me, Richie, he's just waiting till he gets in. Really? He's just waiting till he gets in, is he? Is he?
What kind of fuckery are you?
Yeah. Wishes, huh? Wishes and expectations. Put all your wishes in your left hand and shit in your right hand and see which one gets full the quickest. Hannibal Lecter said that. 20 minutes past the hour it is. Back in a minute with plenty more. This is Sunday View.
Renowned healer Mark Bayersky travels the world to find the most unique and powerful crystals for self-healing. Since the ancient times, crystals have been used as healing tools. They hold a natural healing vibration and are highly charged in positive energy. Mark teaches how to channel the universal energy and transfer it to the crystal to activate its healing power. Each crystal is used for its unique ability to target a different physical or emotional challenge. Mark Bayersky is an author, healer, speaker, and founder of the Pure Energy Healing Academy. He shares powerful messages of inspiration and healing on his daily YouTube videos, reaching millions worldwide. Mark's crystals, healing oils, and incense sticks are most sought after by other healers. His collection is available online at www.markbayersky.com. His work is presented through Lemon House, a company that creates and curates consciously made gifts.
Oh, right, here we go with a couple of tweets. John says, how you doing, John? I can recall Corbyn bringing up PNAC at a party conference in the early noughties. That's the Project for a New American Century. In the early noughties, John. That's like 20 years ago. William says, William is cock a hoop because he's an SNP supporter. Corbyn should now come out and tell us the truth, but I wouldn't hold my breath, says William.
What kind of fuckery are you?
You're all getting it. Every one of you that tweets a stupid comment to me is getting that now, including you, William, much as I like you. Corbyn should now come out and tell the truth. Who the fuck's going to listen to him? The media's not going to invite Jeremy Corbyn on for 12, 15-minute interviews now, are they? He's gone. Finished. Had his chance. He had 4 years to talk about the Project for a New American Century. He had 4 years to talk about fractional reserve banking. He had 4 years to talk about the illegitimate apartheid state of Israel and the Nazi Israeli government. He had 4 years to do that. William, I know you know this. 4 years. 4 years. Not a word. And if Jeremy Corbyn was to take a podium now, anywhere in the country, and start talking about this stuff, I would fucking decapitate the man personally. I wouldn't, of course. I don't believe in violence. And I don't endorse it. I would knock him out. Well, I wouldn't, of course. I wouldn't get past his security. What difference does it make? Now. Too late now. You've got Jess Phillips coming now, or Rebecca Long Bailey, to tell you how hateful men are, and white men, and to put a progressive agenda in front of you that will be destroyed in 2024, even worse than the hiding that Corbyn got 3 days ago. That's what you've got now. Corbyn had 4 years. 4 years. Said nothing. Mumbled. Jean Ann is listening in Cleggan. The soon-to-be septuagenarian Jean Ann Crowley. Actress extraordinaire. Journalist extraordinaire. Brilliant woman. His voice is very like Magic Grandpa's, isn't it? Yes, wretched, useless. The most useless public speaker there's ever been, Jeremy Corbyn. There's more energy in a fucking three-toed sloth. You'd get more energy and more dynamism from a sloth than you got from Corbyn in 4 years. Because I explained on Friday, Jeremy doesn't give a shite. Doesn't give a damn. He's a multi-millionaire, upper middle class, public school educated twit who loves talking about Che Guevara, I would say. I'd say he bores the arse off of people talking about Che Guevara and Hugo Chavez. Doesn't care, Corbyn. Nothing in common with anybody in the north or the northeast or the northwest. Anybody who ever had to do a real job for a living. Dreadful man. And he's gone now, and I knew it would end up like this, and I take no pleasure in telling you that. But I'm telling you anyway. Here's a tune, and when we come back, we'll hear from the Conservative Party in the guise of Michael Gove. This is an Irish band called the Sultans of Ping FC, and this is a song about a little fish called the turnip fish. And it's a good tune. Back with more on Sunday View. It's me, Richie Allen, the BBG, not the BBC. Over the Nile.
That's okay.
Sultans of Ping FC on the Richie Allen Show. Well, it's Sunday View, in fact, 27 and a half minutes past the hour. Sunday, we love Sundays. Sundays are football days. Loads of football on later on, loads of footy. Hi to Natalie. Stacey, how you doing, Natalie? Plug in the Trigger Warning Sunday show, which is 9 to 10 p.m. this evening. That's 9 to 10 p.m. this evening. Triggerwarning.tv. YouTube for the Trigger Warning Show. Marvellous. Good morning to Gail. It's a song, Gail. Hi to Mark Best. Hi to Ricky Emmett. Hi to Bass Ninja, who threw his vote at Maria Eagle Labour. Safe seat, says Base Ninja. I'm well aware of the theatrical show. I did want to put none of the above. There was no space left on the ballot paper. Mass civil disobedience is the way. Mark says Kate Hoey is the only Labour, former Labour big name who has told it like it is. Betray, begat, defeat. Many people saw Corbyn as a secret unicorn biding his time. Sadly, utterly wrong. I too was conned for a bit. Never again, I hope, says Mark. What do you mean you fucking hope, Mark? So you mean there is a possibility if some arsehole comes along promising nationalisation and progressive politics, you know, that you'll fall for it and you'll go running out. Yeah, you're having it too, Mark.
What kind of fuckery are you?
You're having it too. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the comments. It is the BBG, not the BBC, so I'm going to be rude to you all the time. But in a very friendly, fraternal way. In a big brotherly way. Big brother, eh? Big brother. Let's hear from the Tories then. Why not for the crack, eh? Will there be a vote on Boris Johnson's Brexit withdrawal agreement before Santa comes flying down the chimney then? Will there? Michael Gove is the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Jesus. Gove was on Sophie Ridge, so on the withdrawal bill, Michael, when will MPs get to vote on that?
Well, as you mentioned, we're going to have a Queen's speech next week, which will lay out the programme of government. And the top priority, you're absolutely right, is making sure that we can leave the European Union by January the 31st. So we'll be bringing forward a withdrawal agreement bill to make sure that we can honour that date. But also in the Queen's speech, we'll be outlining how it is that we will meet the priorities that the public have, more investment in the NHS, as you say, and also making sure that we level up economic opportunity across the United Kingdom.
I'm keen to get more detail of the Queen's speech, but what exactly is the date that the withdrawal agreement is going to be brought back? Will it be before Christmas?
Well, I won't get into speculation about the precise date for precise pieces of legislation, but what I can absolutely confirm is that we'll have an opportunity to vote on the withdrawal agreement bill in relatively short order, and then we will make sure...
Before Christmas?
Then we will make sure that it passes before January the 31st.
Before Christmas?
Well, again, I do not want to preempt the announcements that there will be in the Queen's speech entirely.
The Queen's speech, eh? Yeah, the effing Queen's speech. Fucker is never off the telly these days, is she? Anyway, Ridge says to Michael Gove, on Colleen, by the way, Sophie, how long will the trade agreement take with the European Union? Because this, of course, is the $64 million question. Penfold, how long will the trade agreement negotiations take with the European Union now?
It will be concluded next year. We'll be...
Yeah, it'll be concluded next year, says Michael Gove.
In a position, as I say, to leave the European Union before the 31st of January of next year, and then we'll have concluded our conversations with the EU about the new framework of free trade and friendly cooperation that we will have with them by the end of next year.
No ifs, no buts? Is this going to be another broken promise?
Nope. One of the things about this general...
It's brilliant that Gove didn't say, we don't break our promises. He just says, no. Will this be another broken promise, Michael? No, not this time, no.
Going to be another broken promise?
Nope.
No.
One of the things about this general election is that we saw that those who had broken their promise...
Warner Brothers is making Danger Mouse the movie. Honest to God, I'm not making this up. I would cast Michael Gove in a heartbeat. Just give him the gig. No need for auditions. Give Michael Gove the gig. He is Penfold. He is the living, breathing incarnation in flesh of Penfold, isn't he? Let's be honest about it.
Those who had said that they stood on manifestos which honoured the referendum mandate.
Right, anyway. So definitely done by the end of 2020, says Penfold. But Ridge is not convinced because Sophie, on Colleen, Arish, she's been listening to the European Union's top negotiator, Michel Barnier.
I mean, we can just have a look at something that Michel Barnier, the chief Brexit negotiator, said in a leaked recording this week. He said it's unrealistic that a global negotiation can be done in 11 months, so we can't do it all. That sounds pretty emphatic.
Yes, but Michel Barnier's view is a view that is different from that of other European politicians. Simon Coveney, who's the Irish foreign minister, their deputy prime minister, someone who...
We don't have a foreign minister in Ireland. This is a lie. This is a massive lie by Michael Gove. He's just mentioned Simon Coveney, Fine Gael.
The Irish foreign minister.
We don't have one. We don't have a foreign minister. We don't have a justice minister. We don't have a prime minister, a Taoiseach. What we have is, well, we have a bunch of Brussels lackeys. Ireland is a vassal state of the European Union. It hasn't made a decision, a sovereign decision, of its own volition on behalf of its own people in decades. Massive lie to suggest that we've got a foreign minister. We don't.
The deputy prime minister, someone who's been...
We don't have a deputy prime minister either, the Taoiseach.
...intimately involved in these negotiations.
Michel Barnier is the one who's leading negotiation from the EU.
Yes, Sophie, yes. Barnier is leading negotiations with the European Union, and he says forget about getting a trade deal done next year.
Michel Barnier is the one who's leading negotiation from the EU. Can't get much more involved than that.
Simon Coveney takes a different view. As do a number of other European politicians. Earlier today on Sky News, we heard from Peter Lilly, the Secretary of State who concluded many trade negotiations when he was Secretary of State at the Department of Trade and Industry. And he made it clear that we start from a strong position. There was scepticism, including from Michel Barnier, that we would be able to change the withdrawal agreement before this election. The Prime Minister, in short order, changed the withdrawal agreement, which people said was impossible, and ditched the backstop, which people said was also going to be beyond anyone's grasp. The speed and effect...
This is where Sophie lets herself down a bit. And it's not because she's not intelligent, it's because she is lazy, because she has producers and editors. Ridge should be interrupting him now and saying, the backstop, what you replaced it with was a border down the Irish Sea, Michael, which you said you would never do. And you did that because the European Union told you to preserve the integrity of its single market on the island of Ireland. And Boris Johnson swore blind that he wouldn't do that. That's what Sophie Ridge should interrupt Michael Gove with now and say, but Sophie Ridge, well, she's not me, is she? I mean, she's not me. She's not the BBG, right? Sophie Ridge is not in my league, right? Right. Obviously not. I boast not, by the way. I'm making a very important point here. She should say to him, well, you're talking through your arse there, Michael. I can hear your sphincter flapping. You know, Johnson has caved to the European Union by putting a border down the Irish Sea. So stop with all this nonsense. But she doesn't.
Speed and effectiveness with which the Prime Minister negotiated or renegotiated the withdrawal agreement, I think demonstrates his determination, our government's determination, to ensure that we not just leave the European Union by January the 31st, but we also conclude the remaining arrangements by the end of 2020.
You and I both know there's a big difference between changing part of the withdrawal agreement.
Terrible again by Sophie Ridge. Terrible. Because he just said again, we will definitely have the trade negotiation done by the end of 2020.
By the end of 2020.
You and I...
Right. Her next question should be, Michael, or Mr. Gove, or whatever you call him, Katja Adler is Europe editor for the BBC. She has pointed out, and she has been backed up by every political journalist in the country, that there isn't a snowball's chance in hell of you getting a trade deal concluded in 2020. And the only way you would get one is if you completely capitulate to European Union demands. In other words, they might give you one by 2020, so long as you agree to allow them fish in the UK's waters, so long as you agree to very close alignment on regulations. That's the truth, isn't it, Michael? The only way you'll get a deal done is if you basically don't leave the European Union. But again, Sophie Ridge or the people in the gallery, they're not very good at their job.
You and I both know there's a big difference between changing part of the withdrawal agreement, much of which had been negotiated before, and getting an entirely new trade deal organised in 11 months.
Quite a lot of the detail that we need to negotiate.
Yeah, it's very poor. There's no need to listen to the end of that answer. Dreadful stuff by Sophie, and she started so well. Liars, all of them. Michael Gove and the blonde-haired goon that he bends the knee for. Liars. And would you believe it, we haven't heard the last of the monumental bollocks, by the way, that is anti-Semitism. I know. It's the Conservative Party's turn to be accused of anti-Semitism now. Labour has been eviscerated. Not that it made any real attempt to defend itself. Labour is gone, so it's now time for the UK Zionist lobby to turn its attention to the Tories. over to Sophie.
OK, now, I just want to ask you quickly about a couple of your new colleagues who've been elected at this election. Sally Ann Hart, the new Conservative MP for Hastings and Rye, she's being investigated after she shared a video in 2017 implying that the billionaire George Soros controls the EU. Now, that's been condemned as an anti-Semitic...
She shared a tweet. She shared a video that criticised George Soros, a billionaire philanthropist. Is that what she did, this Tory MP?
George Soros, after she shared a video in 2017...
She shared a video. Burn her! Burn her! She shared a video about Soros, right?
Implying that the billionaire George Soros controls the EU. Now, that's been condemned as an anti-Semitic...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
...slur. Are you really happy that people like this are being elected to Parliament? Is it a concern for you?
Well, I think that that particular case is currently under investigation, and I shouldn't say anything about it until the investigation is concluded. It is a cause of concern, but what I cannot do is pass judgment here until that independent investigation has concluded.
Will she take the Conservative whip until it has concluded?
I don't know the details of that.
Oh,
OK, it's not the only person as well. Lee Anderson, the new Conservative MP...
There's another one, a new Conservative MP. What did he do?
The MP for Ashfield, found to be an active member of a Facebook group where Soros conspiracy theories were promoted. Is this another person who will be taking the Conservative whip?
He's an active member of a Facebook group where Soros conspiracy theories are discussed. Burn him!
Again, questions as to who takes the Conservative whip are for the Chief Whip.
Well, do you think they should?
But I'm not aware.
Yeah, he's not answering. You've not heard the last of the anti-Semitism garbage. You're never going to hear the end of it, by the way. Not until somebody stands up to it. We're going to have another tune. It's Rod Stewart this time on Sunday View with me, Richie Allen. When we come back, I'm going to read you two fantastic bits of journalism. Peter Hitchens in the Mail on Sunday, and a man from Ireland writing in the Sunday Times called David Quinn. Journalism isn't dead, by the way. Sunday View, richieallen.co.uk, Fab Radio 2, triggerwarning.tv. I love you, really. That's for all my Scottish listeners. Freedom! Rod Stewart saw Rod at the arena in Manchester recently. What a night that was. Unbelievable. Right, let's get back to it before I run out of time. 17 and a half minutes to the top of the hour. Sunday View with me, Richie Allen. Oh, Steve, my listeners are queuing up now to get a fuckery. You're queuing up to get a fuckery. That's what you're doing. Steve tweets, Richie, I would have liked to have seen Corbyn in number 10 too, says Steve, just to see what proportion of his policies he would actually have achieved. Not many, I know, says Steve.
What kind of fuckery are you?
You're queuing up, Steve. You're queuing up for it. All right, Steve. None is the answer. By the way, welcome to Liz Jones. How you doing, Liz? The Iron Maiden, huh? Rod Stewart. Right now, a couple of brilliant articles in the press today, which we'll wrap the show with today. There's some decent journalism. There's some decent journalism still. Before we get to David Quinn in the Sunday Times Ireland edition, which is very important indeed. Speaking of cancel culture, you know cancel culture, where people on Twitter tried to get somebody destroyed just because they found something offensive said by that person, get him destroyed. I belly laughed so hard this morning, I nearly broke my neck walking down the stairs. I read something on my little laptop, and I was laughing so hard after I walked out of the studio that I nearly tumbled down the stairs. There is a little girl, well, there's a young woman who tweets, and she streams on Twitch, and her name is Sweet Anita. This is a real person. A nice, pretty young woman who's got 600,000 people following her, apparently. And part of her popularity is that she is a Tourette's sufferer. She suffers with Tourette's. You might think I do, but I don't. I should have made that clear maybe 3-4 years ago. I don't have Tourette's. This young woman does. And she streams and talks about things, and sometimes the Tourette's comes out. Well, she's a new victim of cancel culture. Right. Why? Well, because when she was streaming very recently, she blurted out the phrase, "Kill the Jews." This young woman, this very attractive young woman, very sweet looking young woman, was doing a live stream and had a particularly bad tick, talking about films or something. And also in the cinema this week is the new film with Daniel Craig, Kill the Jews, and then she moved on. So she's been a victim of cancel culture, but it's backfired on the Twitterati, because rather than get her deleted or, rather than succeed in getting her to commit suicide, they've all basically been chastened as millions and millions of Twitter people came to her defence and said, it's just Tourette's. She doesn't really want to kill the Jews. There you are. I found that very amusing this morning. Right in the middle of a film review. Kill the Jews. Right, this is important. Peter Hitchens writing in the Mail on Sunday. Real journalism. This is Pulitzer Prize stuff, by the way. It is. Because Hitchens has been writing about this for some time. Peter Hitchens reveals fresh evidence that United Nations watchdog suppressed report casting doubt on Assad gas attack. So a report which came to light that suggested that Bashar al-Assad did not launch chemical weapons against his own people in April 2018. That report was suppressed by the United Nations watchdog. Why would they do that? Fresh details emerged. I'm reading from Peter's article now. I won't read the entire thing because it's very long, but it's very good. You can read it for free, dailymail.com, dailymail.co.uk. Listen up. Fresh details emerged about how it suppressed, this is the Global Chemical Weapons Watchdog, the OPCW, Organisation for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, suppressed the findings of its own inspectors when they raised serious doubts about an alleged poison gas attack in Syria. The Mail on Sunday can reveal that a senior official at the OPCW demanded the removal of all traces of a document which undermined claims that gas cylinders had been dropped from the air, which was a key component of their evidence that the Syrians were responsible. Unconfirmed reports and videos showed the bodies of adults and children foaming at the mouth in Douma, which was held by rebels, alleged rebels, back in April 2018. Now, the following week, you will remember this. Without any proof whatsoever that Syria was behind it, Britain, France, and the US launched a retaliatory missile strike. Okay? After the missile strike, the OPCW inspectors went in to Douma to investigate their attack. To investigate that attack and prepare their report. Now, Hitchens last month in the Mail on Sunday brilliantly revealed details of a leaked email, which we know now to be authentic, by the way, and because it's been verified by the OPCW, Hitchens revealed an email which protested that the scientists' original report had been censored to change its meaning. Okay? The team's original, uncensored, interim report into the alleged chemical weapons attack differs sharply from all later versions, including the one that we were given by the OPCW in March. So the original report has been doctored beyond belief, part of it has been buried, and the report that's in the public domain now doesn't resemble it in the slightest. Okay? The final report says there are reasonable grounds that chlorine gas was used in Douma. But an OPCW whistleblower says only tiny quantities of chlorine were detected in forms possible to find in any household. The original interim report also casts serious doubt about the origin of the cylinders, saying that it's pretty much impossible that they were dropped from an unknown height. Okay? They also ask how cylinders ended up on the bed in rooms or in a room in a house, given the point at which the cylinder entered the room remains unclear. Right? This is Ian Henderson, who's conducted a study. He's a veteran OPCW inspector. He said, after he visited Douma, that those cylinders probably were not dropped from the sky. it looks like they were placed carefully in and around the area that was supposed to have been attacked with chemicals. Shocking. Shocking, right? But even worse, and the Mail on Sunday, again, brilliant by Peter Hitchens. This is Pulitzer stuff, this. Most shocking of all were the actions of a senior OPCW official whose name is known to the Mail on Sunday and who is known to the organisation staff as Voldemort. Voldemort basically buried the research that was included in the report by Ian Henderson. Buried it. And ordered it to be taken out of the report and for all traces of it to be removed. Imagine. France, Britain bombarded, the United States bombarded Syria after this alleged chemical weapons attack in 2018 in April. Bombarded the bejesus out of Syria based on a lie. And never forget this is really important today. The BBC Syria producer Riyam Dalati, whom we've talked about quite a bit on this programme, he has stated, BBC Syrian producer, that the hospital scene in video footage taken in Douma was fake, and that the BBC was complicit in faking that hospital scene. Massively important in the Daily Mail today, dailymail.co.uk. Find Hitchens' story and share the bejesus of it around the internet. Right? Very important. Very, very important. 8 minutes to the top of the hour. And also very important in the Sunday Times Ireland edition, which isn't free, sadly. You will have to subscribe to the Times online to read it. This is brilliant by David Quinn. I'll read you a little bit of this. Very, very important about free speech and free thought. David Quinn writes, he says, liberals used to support freedom of expression and the authoritarian right favoured censorship. These days, writes David Quinn, many liberals are calling for curbs on what they call hate speech, and the Irish government looks like it might do that very thing. He goes on to write, does David Quinn. The Irish Department of Justice is currently undertaking a review of the Prohibition of Incitement to Hatred Act 1989. The deadline to make submissions passed on Friday. To quote the department itself, the legislation says a hate crime occurs where an offence that is already itself a crime, for example, assault or criminal damage, but where the victim is selected because of their association with a particular identity characteristic, their sexual orientation or ethnicity, for example. Thus, you might be beaten up by a random drunk, which is obviously a crime, but if the drunk attacks you because you are, say, Nigerian, then it's also a hate crime. Hate crime is equally a crime under the 1989 Act, but the offence is difficult to prove. That is one reason why there are calls to reform the law, in order to make it easier to convict someone for saying something hateful. So in Ireland, they want to change the law to make it easier to convict someone for saying something hateful. The Irish Justice Minister is a guy called Charlie Flanagan. Again, don't believe it. Ireland takes its edicts, it derives its policy on such matters from the European Union, something which is pointed out brilliantly by the author of the article. This is not Ireland. This is not Muppet politicians in Ireland dreaming this shit up. It's coming from Europe. So the Irish Justice Minister, insert joke here, Charlie Flanagan, is sympathetic to the idea. He has drawn attention to incidents of racism and apparent hate incidents, such as the burning of proposed direct provision centres, although people could easily be jumping to conclusions about the motives in some of these cases, because nothing has been proven. Earlier this month, representatives from the Department of Justice flew to Geneva, of course they did, to take their directives, right? To be told what to do, to be told how to eliminate racial discrimination, right? And the government said, we are considering shifting the burden of proof from those who made an accusation of hate crime to those who were accused. And they even admitted that this was highly unusual. Imagine that. The government will now shift the burden of proof to your shoulders. So somebody says to you, you committed hate speech or you committed a hate crime. The burden of proof is not on the accuser, no. It's on the accusee. It's on you, dipstick. You've got to prove you didn't do it. Brilliant piece this is in the Sunday Times Irish edition by David Quinn. Brilliant. He says it should be absolutely clear just how serious this would be. A principle in law dating back several centuries is that it is better for 10 guilty persons to go free than for one innocent person to suffer. If the government reversed the burden of proof, it would undermine this precept. The government would basically be saying it would be better to risk convicting a certain number of innocent people rather than run the risk of hate taking over society. It's the shocking stuff. And in inviting, wait for this is the madness of it, in inviting people to make submissions on the matter, the Irish Justice Department drew attention to how difficult it was to convict someone of a hate crime and said, listen up, this is a direct quote, "We are considering whether the need to prove intent or likelihood within the act should be changed."
What kind of fuckery are you?
Yeah, these are lunatics, these people. These are dangerous people. We are considering whether the need to prove intent or likelihood within the act should be changed. We don't need to prove it. We just need to say it. And they suggest, the Irish Justice Department, which of course it doesn't really, it's been told to by Brussels, we suggest that a person could be convicted of being reckless with their speech, meaning they may not have directly intended to stir up hatred at all, but they should have known. Like when you drive a car dangerously. Yeah, we accept you didn't intend to stir up any hatred at all, but you should have known. Therefore you are convicted. Imagine if that was implied to the monologues on the Richie Allen radio show. I don't have a hateful bone in my body towards any man, woman, sexual orientation, religion, gender, none. But I've got some very strong opinions. So with the new Brussels edicts, I could be done now. Because it doesn't matter that you intended to or not. You should have known that you could have. And writes this brilliant journalist David Quinn, the Garda Síochána has already announced a new working definition of hate crime, which strongly indicates where all of this is going. The working definition was outlined in October as part of the force's diversity and integration strategy. And here it goes. Any criminal offence which is perceived by the victim or any other person to, in whole or in part, be motivated by hostility or prejudice based on actual or perceived age, disability, race, colour, nationality, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation or gender. And David brilliantly says the key word there is perceived. It is enough for the alleged victim to see the offence as motivated by hate for it to be hate. End of story. Imagine it. Ireland. Imagine Michael Collins. Imagine Connolly. Imagine Larkin. Imagine Emmett. Markovich. Imagine, what the fuck did you fight for? For this? And he writes brilliantly here. He says, this could easily get completely out of hand. When the Galway TD Noel Grealish said in the Dáil recently that Nigerian gangs might be laundering big sums of money, he was accused of racism. Yes, he was. Yes, let's not debate whether there's any fucking merit to what Grealish said. Let's not find out if if Nigerian gangs are laundering money. Let's not find out. Let's just call Noel a fucking racist. Is Noel Grealish a racist? I haven't a Scooby-Doo. I know nothing about him. He might be. Might not be. But he was talking about massive sums of money leaving the country as a result of criminal activity by organised gangs. And he was labelled a racist. And David points out in the brilliant article in the Sunday Times, if Grealish said it outside of the Dáil chamber, where he's got privilege, of course, to say whatever he wants, he might have been charged with a new crime. He also talks about Verona Murphy, who's a Fine Gael candidate in Wexford, Loch Gorman, lovely place. She said, stupidly, according to David Quinn, many asylum seekers might have been radicalised by ISIS. She was accused of hatred. Could she be convicted under the planned law? Says David Quinn. Well, she might well be in the future. Madness. Speech would end up being policed in the most draconian way, he concludes. To go down such a path would be profoundly authoritarian. That's David Quinn. Brilliant. In the Irish Sunday Times today. Don't think for a minute if you're in Ireland. Don't be stupid. This is not the Irish government. Leo Varadkar, the Merry Indian, is a puppet. He is a puppet. The fingers, if you look into his mouth deeply enough, if you get a telescope, you will see the fingers of Jean-Claude Juncker or Donald Tusk. He's a puppet. They do not devise these policies and plans. They are told to enforce them. That is what your government is in Ireland, in Spain, in Portugal, in Italy. They are enforcement officers for the authoritarian cabal that is the European Union. That's all they are. You don't have a government. Imagine that. What's coming down in my country. Very little opposition to it outside of the Irish independent media. No opposition. Irish people blissfully unaware as they go about their business. This is happening to them. That's it for Sunday View. We've gone over the time, which pisses me off because I like the repeats to start on the hour. They're not going to now. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll be back with you tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning. That's 9:30 in the morning for the newspaper review show on youtube.com. Have a fantastic Sunday wherever you happen to be in the world. Enjoy your Sunday. Spend it with your loved ones. We will talk tomorrow. And I'm going to go out with this old tune. I've not played it for ages, from The Lost Boys, which is another good film. Bizarre music choices today, but there you go. You'll take what you're given. See you tomorrow at 9:30. Until then, bye for now. Bye.